With NASCAR officially returning this weekend, I think now's the perfect time for me to give you guys my preseason, way too early playoff predictions. How's it going, everybody? My name is Eric, and welcome once again to Out of the Groove. Unless some huge bombshell of an announcement comes out between now and Sunday, this is officially my last Out of the Groove of the NASCAR Cup Series offseason. Can you guys believe it? Jeez, these 2.5 months just fly by. And like I said at the beginning, this is going to be a pretty fun episode. I'm going to give you guys my preseason playoff predictions. I know, the playoffs don't start for like 7-8 months, but can never be too early. Haven't even seen all the cars on the racetrack yet. I'm really shooting in the dark here. If you've been watching for a year or so, you might remember at the start of last season I did this same thing, a preseason playoff predictions, and let's just say things ended up not going very well. I think Jimmy, they'll get their car suited up right. I think he's gonna be able to get it done with the new car, new body, new all that stuff. I think Jimmy Johnson wins number 8. Oof. Probably shouldn't have started the video out with that because now you guys are all clicking away because you know I'm an idiot. But I hope a lot of you guys stick with me. I'm going to try and back up most of my predictions with, facts or observations, so I'm not just going to be like completely guessing here. And now also, before I get too far into the video, I also want to shout out that I appeared on a good friend of mine's podcast earlier today. I'll put a link down in the description, but I appeared on the Chairgating podcast, a part of Belly Up Sports, earlier this week, talking all about the NASCAR offseason and also talking about Daytona. So if you want to hear me talk with my good friend Matt about more NASCAR stuff, more Daytona stuff, go check out that link down in the description and watch that after this episode. I said watch, listen, it's a podcast, not this. It's just my voice, so you don't have to see this looking at you the whole time. All right, but enough rambling. Let's get to it. My 2019 preseason playoff predictions. I'll start by listing the 16 drivers in no particular order that I think are going to make the playoffs this year. Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Chase Elliott, Martin Truex Jr., Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, Clint Bowyer, Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin, the two Erics, Almirola and Jones, Alex Bowman, Austin Dillon, Daniel Suarez, and Kurt Busch. They're the 16 drivers that I think will make the playoffs this year. A lot of these guys made the playoffs last year, but you can definitely see that there's a couple names, possibly big ones, that I left off this list. Most notably has to be Jimmy Johnson. I do not have Jimmy Johnson making the playoffs in 2019. Now, before you Jimmy Johnson keyboard warriors start slamming me in the comment section, do keep in mind that last year I was basically completely wrong when it came to Jimmy Johnson. So with me saying that he's not making the playoffs, he's probably gonna win the championship this year. So remember that, Jimmy Johnson fans. But no, in all honesty, maybe this is being a little too harsh, but hey, I feel like I gotta go all in. It's a predictions episode. Last season, Jimmy Johnson had his worst year in his Cup Series career by far, 0 wins. He only had 2 top 5s last season. He snuck into the playoffs, but ultimately was eliminated in the first round. A lot of people seem to think Jimmy Johnson's going to really turn it around this year, and I just don't know if I see that. The only 2 things that have changed since the end of last season are the sponsor on the hood of his car, which I don't think really has an impact, and his crew chief. And I would say he's getting a downgrade in the crew chiefing department this year. Chad Knaus, 7-time champion, dude who's basically as big a legend as Jimmy is himself, he is no longer going to be on top of the 48 pit box this year. Instead, Hendrick is promoting Kevin Meandering from the Xfinity Series to that 48 car. And I don't know, a rookie crew chief with a guy who seems to be in the last legs of his career, I just don't see the spark. Kevin Meandering has spent the last 3 years with Elliott Sadler in the Xfinity Series, and he hasn't won a race in the Xfinity Series since 2016. Not saying he's bad, but I don't think he's like the top guy by any means. But we'll see, maybe he'll prove me wrong. He proved me wrong last year in a bad way. Maybe he'll do it in a good way this year. Other than that, other notables I left off, the Roush cars, Stenhouse and Newman, they might show some improvement from last season, but I still don't think they're a playoff team. William Byron, who does have Chad Knaus now atop the pit box this year, he's in his second year. I think he'll show some improvement, but last year, he's got a long ways to go before he becomes a playoff team. Matt DiBenedetto, I'm excited to see what he does this year, but again, I think this is still kind of a rebuilding year for the 95. Rebuilding is kind of the wrong word. It's a building year, just a building year. On the other side, though, I do have Kurt Busch still making the playoffs despite moving from Stewart-Haas Racing over to Chip Ganassi. I think Chip Ganassi Racing might see a slight resurgence this year. I think adding a veteran like Kurt Busch will really help that program. I also do have Daniel Suarez on here making the playoffs for the first time in his young career. Last 2 years with Joe Gibbs Racing, Racing have not been impressive, but I think he's really going to find a home at Stewart-Haas Racing. We've talked all about him on this show the last few weeks, but in a nutshell, you look at what Stewart-Haas Racing has done for other drivers' careers the last few years. Clint Bowyer's career looked like it was in jeopardy. He gets picked up by Stewart-Haas and he won 2 races last year. Aric Almirola's career wasn't going anywhere either, and he won a race last year in the 10 car. I mean, even Kevin Harvick was pretty good before he got to Stewart-Haas Racing, but since he got to that 4 car, he has a championship and like more than 20 wins just in the last like 5 years. So Stewart-Haas Racing seems to have a knack for turning people's careers around. You know, I don't see Daniel Suarez being a championship contender, but he could win a race this year, and with this new aero package and intermediate tracks, I think it'll play into his hands better than it will others. I think he makes the playoffs. That 41 car was a round of 8 car last year. I think Suarez can handle it. I have Austin Dillon making it again. Last year wasn't too impressive other than his Daytona 500 win, but he showed strong signs at the end of the year. I think he's going to emerge kind of as the leader of RCR, so to speak. He is now the veteran at that team. I think this could be a big year for him. Other than that, a lot of these other guys, made the playoffs last year. I don't think there's a whole lot of an argument here. You got some of those top guys at the top of the list. I think that's a pretty solid playoff prediction in my opinion, but I'm sure you guys are already probably letting me know in the comments what you guys think. Let's move on to my round of 12 drivers. In the round of 12, a lot of top guys are staying the same for me. Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Chase Elliott, Martin Truex Jr., Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, Clint Bowyer, Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, Erik Jones, Aric Almirola, and Alex Bowman. So in other words, my first 4 drivers eliminated are Austin Dillon, Daniel Suarez, Kurt Busch, and Denny Hamlin. A lot of those guys, Busch, Suarez, I think they'll be lucky just to make the playoffs this year. Kind of the same with Austin Dillon. Maybe he makes an extra big jump, gets in the round of 12, but I'm not sure I see that happening. Denny Hamlin's the one we might need to talk about. Much like Jimmy Johnson, Denny Hamlin really did not have a very good 2018, especially not by his standards. That was the first year in Hamlin's Cup Series career that he did not win a race, and to go along with that, he also couldn't make it out of the first round last year. Some of that was due to bad luck, sure, but I'm no longer convinced Denny Hamlin's the second or even the third best driver on his team anymore. Kyle Busch is the leader at Joe Gibbs Racing. Now they've added Martin Truex Jr., I think he's probably second fiddle. Honestly, it's a toss-up in my opinion between Erik Jones and Denny Hamlin, who's the most competitive driver right now. Not saying Denny Hamlin is bad, but his struggles over the last year have been worse than we've seen in the past. With Erik Jones kind of on the up and up, I don't know. I'm not sure Joe Gibbs Racing is going to give Denny Hamlin top priority. He also has a new crew chief this year. Chris Gabart's coming from the Xfinity Series, so I don't know how that's going to work. We'll see, but I'm just saying I'm a little skeptical. And with some of these guys ahead of him, I just feel like they have the momentum. Alex Bowman, I've talked about him a little bit. He super impressed me last year, especially when I go back and look at it. He took that 88 car, which was outside the top 20 in points the year before with Dale Earnhardt Jr., and turned it into a round of 12 car in a down year for Chevy. Last year was not a good year for Hendrick Motorsports, especially not by their standards, and Alex Bowman still managed to make them a competitive team, a round of 12 team, in just his first full-time season with Hendrick. I think 2019 is a year he could possibly contend for a win or two, maybe get a win, I don't know. You look at some of these other guys, Aric Almirola had a breakout year in 2018. I feel like he's going to build on that a little bit this year. At least I'm hopeful that he will. Now he's kind of the third guy at Stewart-Haas Racing. I'd say he's ahead of Suarez in the pecking order. Maybe that helps him out in some way. Erik Jones, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson adding another year of experience. Yeah, I just think those guys are going to make it. Let's move on now to the round of 8 because this is where making picks and predictions gets really difficult. Making it to the round of 8, I have Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Chase Elliott, Martin Truex Jr., Joey Logano. Then I have Brad Keselowski, then Aric Almirola, making it to the round of 8 for the second straight year. And my last spot in the round of 8, I gotta give it to the other Erik Jones. Us Erics gotta stick together, am I right? Nah, but there you have it. In other words, I'm eliminating Alex Bowman, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, and Clint Bowyer. I just don't see those guys make it to the round of 8. We've seen, especially, I'll talk about Kyle Larson, we've seen how this round has given him troubles. He's been eliminated in the round of 12 each of the last 2 seasons. He's good at Dover, Talladega, Larson's never had much restrictor plate success, and then Kansas this year with the new aero package, I think might have taken away some of his advantage. I don't know, I really like Larson. I think Chip Ganassi Racing might be a little better this year than they were last year, but this round seems to be his Achilles heel. Ryan Blaney's one of the drivers I'm really interested to watch this year. In 2018, he really didn't show as much improvement than I thought he would. I thought he'd win a couple races and maybe make it to the round of 8. He really wasn't able to do either of those things. He's still a good driver. Maybe he takes a big step forward, but I don't know. He didn't show it last year. He was just consistent throughout. Actually, I would say he probably got a little worse as the season went on. He led a lot of laps early in the year, kind of faded away towards the end. He did get that win at the Roval, but he kind of lucked into that win, I got to see the consistency from him, and Alex Bowman as well. He's consistent at least, but Alex Bowman's consistently like a 10th place car, and once you get into the round of 8, you got to be better than 10th, and I'm not sure he's going to be able to do that. Clint Bowyer's the one maybe you guys will disagree with me. He had a great 2018, won 2 races, made it to the round of 8. He's really good, don't get me wrong, but me eliminating him in this round, isn't so much about him, it's more about my confidence in some of the guys I put in ahead of him. Guys like Aric Almirola. 2018 was such a breakout season for him. This is his second year now with Stewart-Haas Racing. Let's look at Clint Bowyer again. In 2017, his first year with Stewart-Haas Racing, he was good. Still didn't make the playoffs though, didn't win any races in 2017. His second year with Stewart-Haas Racing, we saw last year a couple wins, a playoff berth. Aric Almirola is now entering his second year with Stewart-Haas Racing. If past stuff shows, second year might be the year to really go for it. That's why I'm putting Almirola ahead of Clint Bowyer. Erik Jones, the other guy on here, I like Erik Jones. When we talk about the best young guys in NASCAR, we immediately look at Chase Elliott, we look at Kyle Larson, sometimes Ryan Blaney. I feel like fourth or fifth down the line, sometimes lost in the shuffle, is Erik Jones. I think we forget how good he was in the Xfinity Series and the trucks. Dude was pretty much unstoppable when he was in those two series. Let's not forget, he won a race last year, and he would have made it to the round of 8 in the playoffs last season had he not been caught up in a wreck at Las Vegas to open the playoffs when Harvick wrecked up into him. Jones had no way to avoid it. If that wreck doesn't happen, based on the finishes afterwards, Erik Jones would have made it to the round of 8 easily. He was great in the playoffs last year. That's why I have him making it this year. This is his second year with Joe Gibbs Racing. I see big improvement for Jones. Those other 6 guys, I feel like not too many people are going to comment on those, so let's go ahead and move on to the Championship 4. So here it is. I know it's only February, but we're already talking about the Championship 4, something that's not going to come up until November, but hey, we're talking about it now. That's what makes racing fun. My Championship 4 for 2019, my preseason picks for the Championship 4, go as follows. Kyle Busch, yeah, I think he makes it again. I think he's basically made every Final Four since NASCAR started this format. He makes it in. Kevin Harvick, because he was just on one of the big 3 last year. Goodness, won 8 races. Come on. Brad Keselowski, yeah, Penske's got to have at least one guy in here for sure. And lastly, Chase Elliott. That's right, y'all. I got Chase Elliott going all the way to the Final Four for the first time in his Cup Series career. I'll just start with him. He's shown such steady improvement each of his first 3 years in the Cup Series. The next logical step is a Championship 4 berth. I've talked about this before, but he was great as a rookie, didn't win any races, but made it to the round of 12, which is impressive. His second year, didn't win any races still, but he made it all the way to the round of 8 and should have made it to Homestead if Hamlin didn't wreck him at Martinsville. And then last year, he made it again to the round of 8, almost to the Championship 4 again, but he added 3 nice wins. So Chase Elliott's steadily improved each of his first 3 years in the Cup Series. The next big check mark on his list is a Championship 4 berth, and I think he gets it. Brad Keselowski, yes, I have him in here instead of his teammate Joey Logano, the most recent champion. As good as Joey Logano was in the playoffs last year, it was Brad Keselowski who really turned it on in the late summer and showed us how amazing that team can be. Remember, he won 3 races in a row at one point last season. Brad Keselowski has shown in the past that he can turn it on just like a switch, just fire off all of a sudden and look unstoppable for like a month. I don't usually like drivers that are kind of streaky like that, but I know Team Penske's going to have a guy in the Championship 4, and I'm just going to bet on Brad Keselowski. He hasn't won a title since 2012, but I think 2019 could be a year he gets another shot at it. Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch, is anyone really surprised that they'd be towards the top of the list? The 2 guys combined for 16 wins last year. Kyle Busch especially had an amazing statistical season. Now I know both of them cooled off once the playoffs rolled around. They were still really good, like top 5 most of the time, but they were no longer like heads and shoulders above the rest of the competition. They're going to have to put together a full season. They can't flame out in the beginning of the year. Like last year, first half of the season, they looked unbeatable. They were unbeatable, and then they kind of tapered off and became human again. If they can manage the gap between them and the rest of the competition better this year, I see them easily making it to Homestead and having another shot at a championship. And now we've come to the moment that you've all sat through this grueling video for my pick for the 2019 Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series champion. 4 great drivers up here. You got 3 former champions, one of the best up-and-coming young guys in that group, so it's a tough pick for sure. I know it's only February, but my pick for the 2019 Cup Series championship, Chase Elliott. He's going all the way, baby! I've said it before, and I honestly believe it. I think 2019 is going to be the unofficial start of the Chase Elliott era. We've had the Richard Petty era, the Dale Sr. era, the Jeff Gordon era, the Jimmy Johnson era. This year that we are sitting in right now is going to be known as the start of the Chase Elliott era. I said before how he's shown steady improvement throughout his career so far. I think he's going to carry that Chevy banner all the way to Homestead, Miami. And yes, indeed, I think he's going to win it all. I think he's going to shock the world and be your 2019 Cup Series champion. Look at the guys he'd be going up against. Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick really weren't that impressive at Homestead this year. Brad Keselowski was okay, but he wasn't even in the Championship 4. If that's all Chase Elliott has to beat, I think he can do it. So he's my pick. Chase Elliott is my pick to be the 2019 Cup Series champion. I'm not just kissing up to the fans. I genuinely believe that Chase Elliott has a shot at it. I thought he had a shot at it in 2017. I think he's got a real chance at it this year. So there you guys have it, my 2019 preseason NASCAR Cup Series predictions. Let me know if you guys agree. Let me know if you guys disagree. I'm sure we have a lot of varying brackets here, but you know, playoffs don't start for like 7-8 months, so we've got plenty of time to make adjustments to it. That's all for my episode here today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to follow me on Instagram, Twitter. You can check those out down below. Also, you can get yourself an Out of the Groove t-shirt if you want to support the show. That's also down there by the description. Also, my P.O. box. You want to send me some cool NASCAR, some cool racing stuff, I'll show it off and shout you out in an upcoming video. Goodness, I can't talk sometimes. Also, big thank you to my Patreon supporters: Michael Harrison at GWiz of the Stars, Mentally Defective, SelfishGifts.com, Cameron James, Tice Moore, John Koblenz, Tim Shingen, Jason R. Long, Wesley Donaldson, and iFantasyRace.com, and the rest of these amazing Patreon supporters. You guys continue to help this show grow. Your contributions, your support really means a lot to me, so thank you so much for being a part of the Patreon page. Next week is Daytona week. Leading up to the Daytona 500, should have a few new episodes, maybe something a little exciting in the works that you guys, I definitely don't think you guys are expecting. I think next week's gonna be really exciting for this channel, for this show, and for all race fans alike. The Daytona 500 is just around the corner. NASCAR season is ready to start, and Lord knows I am itching to get started. So have a good weekend, everybody, and I will see you all after the clash.